Levon Cade retired from a well-paid military career in Black Ops to live a simple working life. After having a conversation with his boss, the boss's daughter Jennifer, and other workers in the office, he left for the day. On his way, he saw his co-worker being beaten by a group of thugs. He took a bucket filled with something and politely asked them to let the man go, but the thugs told him to mind his business and get the fuck out of their sight. Without saying anything further, Cade threw the nails in the bucket at them and quickly knocked 2 of them down. They got back up with a gun, but he immediately disarmed them. When more thugs arrived, Cade pulled out his shotgun, pointed it at them, and told them not to come back. Then he told his CO worker to get back to work. He returned to the office, but Jennifer approached him. She expressed her amazement at his skill, having seen the fight earlier. Cade told her to act like she didn't see anything, which she agreed to. However, she told him to help her someday if she's ever in need. Sometime later, Cade went to pick up his daughter from her grandpa's house. They hugged, and he told her to get in the car. Then her grandfather arrived. They argued because it wasn't the grandfather's turn to take care of the girl. The grandfather told Cade not to feel important in his daughter's life, saying he wasn't there when her mother needed him, and wouldn't be there when Meredith needs him either. He said all kinds of hurtful things to provoke Cade into retaliation, knowing Cade had a history of violence. But Cade controlled himself and got in the car. After a short conversation with his daughter, they drove off to eat, as she said she was hungry. They arrived at a restaurant, ordered, and finished their meal. Fast forward a bit. Cade went to meet with his lawyer and explained what had happened. His lawyer told him that the grandfather was baiting him to throw a punch, which would be very bad in court. The opposing counsel was alleging that Cade had untreated PTSD and brain trauma from his military service, so they were requesting a reduction in his visitation rights and pushing for supervised visits. The lawyer told Cade there was no way he could win in court. The grandfather had hired a team of high-paid attorneys who charged thousands of dollars an hour and would bleed him dry until there was nothing left. Cade refused to surrender. He gave the lawyer 10 grand to continue the case. That night, at a certain bar, Jennifer and her friends were having a party. They danced, drank, and had a great time. Meanwhile, a strange group of people was videoing and monitoring them. After partying for a while, they moved to another bar to get more drinks. Jennifer asked the bartender if the black table in the corner was available. The bartender told her he'd let her know if she told him her name, which she did. She then left to join her friends at the table. Immediately, the bartender texted the guys who had been observing Jennifer and her friends. After more drinks, Jennifer's friend Nina felt like puking, having had too much to drink. Jennifer decided to take her to the restroom. Seeing this, the bartender quickly texted their location to the same guys. Nina threw up when they got to the toilet. Seeing her makeup in a mess, she refused to go out like that. Jennifer decided to give her some time to tidy up, but just as she was about to leave, a man grabbed her, covered her mouth, dragged her into a car, and drove away. The next day, as Cade arrived at the office, his boss and the boss's wife informed him that Jennifer had gone missing. They said they tried involving the police, but the cops told them they don't handle such cases. So, they came to Cade for help, knowing he was the best person for this kind of situation. They even offered him $50,000 up front and another $20,000 for expenses, but Cade refused, saying he was a changed man. Later that day, Cade went into the woods to meet a friend. They had a short conversation, and Cade told him about Jennifer's situation. He explained that he had no choice but to come out of retirement to save her. His friend could tell that Cade had already made up his mind, so he wished him good luck. Cade then headed to his boss's house. The wife directed him to meet her husband upstairs. When Cade entered the room, the boss was sitting, drinking, completely hopeless. Cade reminded him that they were family, and told him not to worry. He promised to bring Jennifer back home. And so, his tracking mission began. The first place he visited was the last bar Jennifer had gone to. He observed the bartender for a while and noticed he was selling drugs to people. Cade checked the restroom and found that the CCTV camera was broken. He also noticed traces that Jennifer had been there. Later, he watched the bartender as he left work and headed home. Cade had planted a tracker on the bartender's car and followed him to his house. He picked the lock and entered. The bartender tried reaching for his gun, but Cade pulled his first. As they sat down, Cade asked where the missing girl was, the one his friends had kidnapped behind the bar. The bartender denied knowing anything, so Cade dragged him to the bathtub and tortured him. Eventually, the man admitted that the people responsible weren't ones to mess with. But just as he finished talking, they heard a voice outside. It was one of the people the bartender had mentioned. As they stepped out, 2 men immediately opened fire, killing the bartender. Cade quickly took both men down with his gun. He recognized from their tattoos that they were Russian. He took their money and left the scene with his weapon. The next day, the boss of the 3 dead Russians came to the scene. He realized that the men didn't shoot each other. They were killed by a third party. What's more, the killer had taken his $90,000. Then came the cleanup crew, wiping the scene clean, all while Cade secretly observed them from a distance. The Russian boss left the building, got into his car, and drove off, unaware that Cade was tailing him. Cade followed him all the way to his house and started observing. He saw how aggressive the man was with his wife. After she stormed out angrily and drove away, Cade broke into the house. He poured hot coffee on the man's face and casually prepared himself something to eat. A few minutes later, the man woke up tied to a chair, and the torture began. The man warned Cade that he was making a big mistake, claiming he was the brother of a high-ranking individual. He threatened that everyone connected to Cade would be hunted for 3 generations, but Cade didn't care. He threw the stolen money in the man's face and demanded to know where the girl, Jennifer, was. He showed him a picture of her and said she was kidnapped behind the bar where he ran his dirty business. The man began speaking in Russian but still refused to reveal anything. So Cade dragged him to the water and drowned him. Afterward, Cade translated the Russian words the man had spoken earlier. He took note of a name, Dimi. Sometime later, the brother of the drowned man watched the CCTV footage and saw what had happened. He realized the killer wasn't after money. He killed without fear. So what exactly did this man want? He ordered his men to find the killer and bring him in. Cade then called a friend of his who worked in the Justice Department. He told him he was looking for someone named Dimi, an associate of Volodymyr Kolesnik. His friend warned him that Dimi was a high-ranking individual and not someone Cade should mess with. But Cade insisted. His friend eventually gave him a lead, a bar called Hattie's, located in Joliet. He told Cade it was where the Russians sold meth and suggested he check it out. Cade thanked him and ended the call. He arrived at the bar and was introduced to the boss. However, they wrongly profiled Cade as a cop. They told him to search himself and show his badge. Cade refused to be disrespected, so they attempted to search him by force. He fought them off single-handedly, taking each of them down. Eventually, the boss told them to stop. Recognizing Cade's skill, they shook hands and reconciled, realizing they were both former soldiers. As they sat down, Cade told the boss he was looking for blue glass, the good stuff, around £4 a month. They eventually agreed on a deal, £5 of cash for half a pound of meth. The man told Cade where the exchange would take place, 7 a.m. the next day, and warned him to show up with the £5. Then he told Cade to get the fuck out of his sight. The following morning, Cade arrived at the meeting location. He gave the men £5 of cash, and in return, they gave him a burner phone. They told him he'd receive a call with instructions on where to collect his package. As Cade drove off, the burner phone rang. A voice on the other end told him the package was under his seat. Cade found the drugs and was instructed to keep the phone, as they'd call him again the next day for the real deal. But Cade wasn't after drugs. He pulled over and threw the entire package into the water. His real plan was to get intel about Dimi. That night, Jennifer was pulled out of a car trunk by her kidnappers. She was carried inside a bag to meet a mysterious man. After delivering her, the kidnappers received payment, which they were told to give to their boss, Dimi. The girl asked the man why he wanted Jennifer. He replied that she reminded him of a painting in one of his father's houses. He ordered them to take her to the back room. After examining her for a while, the man came out covered in blood with a bite mark on his cheek. Furious, he ordered them to take her away. He didn't want to see her again. Fast forward a bit. Cade was reviewing the evidence he had gathered. Suddenly, he received a call on the burner phone. The voice on the other end asked him how the drugs were. Cade replied that the buyers were pleased. The caller then told Cade that if he wanted to continue doing business, he'd have to meet someone, a precaution because the feds were handing out life sentences per pound. Cade was told he'd receive an invite and should wear a suit for the meeting. Later that day, Cade arrived at the given location. The place was heavily guarded, and he was searched at every turn. Finally, he was led to a table where 2 men were already seated, a black man and an unknown fair-skinned man. Cade handed over the money and was told to turn off his phone, which he did. Then the fair man introduced himself as Dimi, the very person Cade had been hunting. Cade didn't show any emotion and introduced himself under a fake name, Bill Coates. Dimi asked for his driver's license. Cade handed it over, and it was verified as authentic. In return, they gave him a suitcase containing drugs. Cade verified the contents. Dimi told him that if he ever needed a resupply, he should use the burner phone and text a rabbit emoji. Then Dimi told him to leave and not look back. Cade left the building, took the drugs, and flushed them all down the drain. Continuing. Sometime later, Cade reviewed photos that Jennifer's friend had taken at the bar the night she was kidnapped. He noticed a man who appeared in every photo and started tracking and observing him. Eventually, through a CCTV camera, the girl noticed Cade tailing them. She made a phone call to alert the Russians who had been searching for Cade. Realizing he'd been spotted, Cade took down a nearby man, stole a bike, and escaped. The Russians gave chase, firing bullets at him as they pursued. But, as expected, the protagonist never dies. He dodged their ambushes and even escaped their encirclement. But during the chase, the gunfire caused his bike to crash, right into a police car. Thinking he was safe, Cade quickly realized the police were working with the Russians. They knocked him out and handed him over in exchange for money. Cade was cuffed and loaded into a van. Inside, they interrogated him. demanding to know how he knew Dimmy and what business he had with him, but Cade fought back. He strangled the first guy with a rope. The second one intervened with a gun, but in the struggle, he accidentally shot the driver in the head. The van lost control, crashed, and nearly plunged into the river. In the wreckage, Cade broke into a toolbox, grabbed a hammer, and shattered the remaining men's joints. Then he reached for a gun, shot them both dead, climbed out of the van, and pushed it into the river. Another scene. Inside a club, Dimmy grabbed a man by the collar, furious over the botched job. Jennifer, who was supposed to be sedated, had bitten the client's cheek, requiring 36 stitches. Dimmy said he lost $200,000 because of it. Now, the client wanted her dead. And so did Dimmy. He screamed at the man to go and finish the job. Now, Simon and the Brotherhood were having a meeting about the person going around, killing their men. They knew Dimmy was the person the killer was after, so they decided to go get Dimmy first and confirm things with him. The next day, while Dimmy was relaxing at the bar, a gunshot rang out, startling everyone inside. One of the shooters punched Dimmy in the face, and then Simon stepped forward. They sat down at a table. Simon told Dimmy that his father was dead, murdered, along with his sons. Dimmy was visibly surprised. No one had told him anything. The Brotherhood had been treating him like he was radioactive. Simon showed Dimmy a picture. Dimmy immediately recognized the man in the photo, Cade. He said he was a meth buyer who paid in real cash. Then he showed Simon Cade's fake driver's license. Simon told him that the man in the photo wasn't just a buyer, he was the one hunting him. Then he got up and left the club. The next day, with the help of a hacker, the Russians dug up everything about Cade, including details about his family. They quickly went to Cade's father-in-law's house and kidnapped him. Later, after picking up his daughter from school, Cade grew suspicious due to her grandpa's absence. He asked if she was sharing her location with him. She said yes, his location was at home. But when they arrived at the house, it was on fire. Cade rushed in, broke down the door, and carried the chained-up grandfather out through the back. As they sat outside while fire extinguishers worked on the blaze, the grandfather asked Cade if he had gotten involved with the Russian mafia. Cade simply said yes. The grandfather scolded him, but his granddaughter interrupted and told him that Cade saved his life. He could have left him in there, but he didn't. The grandfather thanked him and advised Cade to let the police handle things, but Cade said the cops couldn't help. He told the grandfather to go to the hospital for safety, then took his daughter to his blind friend's place for protection. He left her there, packed his weapons into a bag, and loaded them into his car trunk. Before leaving, he told his daughter she wouldn't be going to school for a few days. Understanding the danger he was walking into, she asked him to promise he'd come back alive. He promised. They hugged and said goodbye. Continuing. Out on the road, Jennifer was being transported by her kidnappers. Still cuffed, she began kicking and fighting them from the back seat. Her sudden resistance caused the driver to lose control, and the car crashed. Jennifer quickly jumped out and started running. The two kidnappers chased after her, firing their guns, but missed. She managed to cut off the cuffs and sprinted at full speed, leaving them behind. One of the men panicked, realizing they'd go back to prison if they didn't catch her. But Jennifer finally escaped. Out on the roadside, she tried flagging down a car. Luckily, a police car stopped. She ran up and told the officer she had been kidnapped. The officer calmly told her she'd get her home. But instead of safety, he brought her back to the kidnappers, shattering her hopes. They threw her into water to drown. But just then, they received a call from the client. He told them he wanted a second date that night at the farmhouse. He'd pay $1 million, but she had to be alive and dirty just the way she was. Meanwhile, Cade launched a stealth attack on the bar where Dimmy was staying. He silently took out the first guard with his knife, then the second one. After that, he caused an explosion to create chaos in the building. He eliminated all the guards on his way to Dimmy's room. Dimmy tried using a girl as a hostage, but Cade shot him in the hand clean off. He then told the girl to take the money and disappear, which she did. Cade showed Dimmy Jennifer's picture and demanded to know where she was. Dimmy asked if Cade would let him live in exchange for her location. Cade said yes. Dimmy then told Cade to take him somewhere and he'd give the address. They arrived at a location. Cade dragged Dimmy out of the car and asked why he kidnapped her. Dimmy explained that pictures of pretty girls in clubs were sent to clients. If a client liked someone, they paid, and the girl would be kidnapped and delivered, just like shopping. Cade had heard enough. He kicked Dimmy into the water and shot him dead. Then he geared up, putting on a bulletproof vest and equipping his sniper rifle, ready for the final rescue mission. Cade approached the farmhouse where Jennifer was being held. He silently took out the first group of guards using precise sniper shots. At the same time, after getting news that Dimmy's men had been taken out by Cade, Dutch, a gang leader allied with the Russians, rallied his men. They armed themselves and drove toward Cade's location. Cade, hiding in the shadows beside a dark wall, ambushed and eliminated 2 guards at the entrance. He then moved inside. Meanwhile, at a poker table inside the farmhouse, a woman told the client that she's ready for him. He was taken to a room where Jennifer was chained. The man entered, removed his hat, walked to a nearby table, and picked up a knife, ready to torture her. Just then, Cade threw a grenade into the entrance. The explosion rocked the building. Panic spread instantly. Viper, one of the guards, pulled out his gun and aimed toward the door, bracing for an attack. The fight began. Cade charged through the smoke and took down guard after guard, each with a single precise shot. Then Dutch and his gang arrived. One of them crashed through the window in a car, but Cade shot him dead instantly. Now facing Dutch himself, Cade engaged in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. They exchanged blows before pulling out daggers. Cade, more skilled, ultimately drove his blade into Dutch's chest, killing him. He immediately rushed upstairs and broke down the door where Jennifer was chained. He shot the man inside, sending him flying across the room. Viper began firing at Cade, but ran out of bullets. Cade stormed in and beat the crap out of him. Jennifer tried to escape, but a female guard blocked her path. Jennifer kicked her into the wall and strangled her using her legs. Cade smashed Viper's skull, killing him. Jennifer finished off the female guard. At the same time, Simon and his men arrived, along with the police. But the police were gunned down by Simon's crew. Inside, Simon saw Cade and Jennifer, and without hesitation, his men opened fire. Cade sneaked out his gun with a camera attachment and used it to line up a shot. He took out the first shooter. Then he pulled out a grenade, tossed it, and the man accepted his fate, going up in flames. Outside, Simon saw Cade and Jennifer escape on a motorcycle. Simon called a council member and reported that Cade and the girl had gotten away. But the man told Simon to let Cade go, or face death himself, since the Brotherhood does things in secret, and they don't care about his personal vengeance. Simon broke down in tears, unable to take revenge. And so Cade and Jennifer lived happily ever after,